What's up, guys? Back this week with another Q&A. My picture of choice was not a very popular one, so not very many questions this week. You guys don't like my homemade egg white McGriddle. Uh, but anyway, let's get right to it. So what would you consider the best 3 deadlifting accessories and why? I've been having fun with pause deadlifts and block pulls recently. So for me personally, front squats has always been number one. Maybe this isn't going to translate to everybody, but all my last heaviest deadlift PRs, including hitting over 700-pound deadlift, all came on the heels of a front squat PR, and they were just a couple training blocks after. And I know a plethora of people who have reported the same. When their front squat goes up, their deadlift goes up by proxy. I've seen more translation from my front squat to my deadlift than from my front squat to my back squat. So that one is really good. And just being strong at front squatting makes you strong overall. I think it has a lot to do with me in particular. And, my dachshund build, shout out Bromley there. You kind of have to get down low to get your deadlift started and off the ground. And maybe that heavy front squatting, forcing you to stay upright when you get down there, helps you stand upright with the deadlift. But that's helped me a ton. Block pulls, again, for me, dachshund build, great way to get in volume and saving fatigue. I don't think this one is a for everybody necessarily, but it can help for a lot of people, and especially if you're leverage disadvantaged. It helps you get in more volume and build more muscle while saving some wear and tear on you. And personally, I've never block pulled more than I've deadlifted, so it's not something a lot of people say overload using block pulls or rack pulls, but I've never used block pulls as an overload. I've used them as volume to get in volume and some compensatory acceleration work, but I've never block pulled or wagon wheeled more than I could deadlift off the floor. And then pause deadlifts are really good. I'm kind of at a toss up here. Pause deadlifts are good if you need pause deadlifts. They're not a one size fits all in my opinion. People who have trouble with starting position will benefit from pause deadlifts. People who are very explosive and rely on floor speed to finish their lockout, they're usually bad at starting position, will benefit from pause deadlifts. So that RDLs are so great for hypertrophy, for being disadvantaged, letting that bar float, getting started rather than going back to the floor. They are a great universal builder of the deadlift, and that's something that all my clients eventually will get to doing RDLs at some point, depending upon what block and what phase we're in. Yeah, so front squats, block pulls are probably my 2 staples, and then pause deadlifts and RDLs. I'm going to give RDLs that 3rd spot because pause deadlifts are more specific. How would you approach programming kettlebell swings during a full body split? Okay, so I'm not a kettlebell person, so take this with a grain of salt. But typically, if I'm doing a full body day or something like that, obviously depending upon what my goals are, but generally speaking, I'm going to have hinge probably in the last spot, and that's the power lifter in me, and kettlebell swings are a hinge movement. So I'm going to do a squat pattern first, a pressing pattern second, and then a hinge pattern third. A lower body quad movement first, a upper body movement second, if it's pull-ups or whatever, or overhead press, bench press, whatever the case may be, and then the hinge movement, the deadlift, the RDL, the kettlebell swings, I would put last. Again, I don't know a lot about kettlebell swings. I've never programmed them for anybody or myself. I've done kettlebell swings, but not like with any sort of serious want or desire to progress with them. So take that with a grain of salt. And maybe they're not as taxing. They're probably not as taxing as something like a deadlift or an RDL. So you could toy with putting them wherever you want in a split. Just the power lifter in me, when I do a full body, unless like deadlifts are a main priority at the time, my whatever hinge pattern I'm going to do is going to be the last of the big compound movements. How would you program an OHP specialization phase? I am going to link a playlist in the description, and it is the Dreadnought OHP program, the one I ran to hit my 350-pound OHP. That's how I would program an OHP specialization phase. It's fantastic. Do some people benefit from bloat maxing more than others, at least for bench? I've been on a really lean bulk, bordering on maintenance for 6 months, plus 10 pounds body weight, and an average of 500 calorie surplus for 4 months. And I averaged 5 pound increase in 1 rep month. 1 rep max a month, regardless of diet. Yes, some people will benefit more, specifically people who are already, that late intermediate, more advanced. Beginners and novices, the bloat maxing isn't going to do much for you because you're going to be gaining anyway. I don't know where you fall on that spectrum, but I've made a video about bloat maxing, and it's like one of those trump cards that I would save for later in your training if that's something you would like to do. Look at Andrew Richard, for example. Like, dude has been shredded already. He'd been lifting for years before he put the bloat maxing to work, and his OHP speaks for itself. So yes, depending upon where you're at in training, what your current leverages already are, and there's also going to be a point of diminishing returns for most people where you get to a certain size and it's just not going to yield the results you think it's going to yield by keeping going, because there's other factors at play with your health that are going to be detrimental to performance and recovery. So yeah, it's going to be different for people, and honestly, it's one of those final trump cards that should be played, in my opinion. It's not something, if you have to ask about it, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Peace!